Oh, hey everyone. This is Dean for Paranormal Pickers. Just getting ready for our next Paranormal Picker adventure. Come on, join me. Think we're live.
We're live. Yay!
I'm live in La Crosse, Wisconsin at the Bodega Brew Club. It's actually a haunted place out there. Have you ever been
What?
to bodega bars in La Crosse?
I have not. I can't tell you the last time I was in lacrosse, shamefully enough.
Well, they had that. You remember the back in the day, the giant 6-pack of old styles? But
I mean,
now it's
how
something else.
far back?
I don't know when they got rid of it, but I remember it when I was 18 or 19 or 20. When it was legal to drink in Wisconsin for me.
Wait, are you saying now it's not?
Not legal now.
What have you done, Dean, that it's not legal for you to drink in Wisconsin anymore?
Wisconsin's a scary place, especially with Illinois license plates.
Yep. Yeah.
No, Wisconsin's cool. They got the New Glarus Brewery. Come on,
Yeah.
Spotted Cow.
That's some of my favorite
Fat
beer.
Squirrel. Yeah,
Yeah, that's some of my favorite. Props to them.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Why isn't this going live?
It says live on my end. Live at 1:18.
I just want to see it on my Facebook page so I can check out the comments when they come in. Oh, it says live now. There you go. I'm looking at my phone. Looking at my phone. It's like that mirror. You look in the mirror.
Yeah,
mirror.
infinity.
Yeah.
The infinity loop.
Yeah. No one's here yet.
Oh, what?
2 people are watching. Somebody's watching. I don't know how to tell this.
Who's
thing.
watching us? I always feel like somebody's watching me.
Go, girl.
That's right. See, I'm bringing up.
pretty cool.
Thank you. My dad was a musician. He didn't teach me though, so it died with him. I'm trying to
Well, you
find
could
it
sing.
on. What?
You can
Oh.
sing. Ron,
Oh, thank
Ron
you.
Lovett's watching.
Oh, Ron.
Hi,
Hi, Ron.
Ron.
I don't know how to get to this, so I'm trying to go on Facebook now, but I don't know how to get to this. I don't know what I'm
Oh,
doing.
you know what? Nick
No.
normally put up the banner here. So
See, I got Facebook user. It just says Facebook user on my end.
So hello everyone. This is Dean, Paranormal Picker Dean. Paranormal Picker Nick is not here with us right now. Family emergency. He may jump in. Who knows? But tonight's episode is season 2, episode 3.
Ooh.
It's on a Thursday. Normally it's on a Tuesday. But we have Kathi Kresol and Sara B, because she likes to be hiding her last name.
That's right.
So this season we dedicated each episode to one of the tarot cards, and this one happens to be the Empress, and you guys are the Empresses. How about that?
Yay!
Fancy, right?
That's right. Can I get that title official? Can I get?
If you change your name, you could.
Well, can't I just add it in the front? Empress Sara B.
The Empress, Sara B, sure.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to up the accolades. I like that it's floating in midair.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, you can't really tell the card, but
Yeah,
that's
for a
the-
second there, I wasn't sure what was happening. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Just for a second, though, right, Sarah?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of
I'm
cool.
still not really sure what's going on here.
I know. There she goes. Look.
That's
Oh.
the Empress's,
Okay,
the Empress.
I got it.
Empress.
Tarot card.
How did you get it? I can't get in. I don't know.
No, I didn't get that. I mean, I get that it's a card. No,
Oh.
Laura Redmond says, "Hello, lovely ladies."
Hello,
No, we
Laura.
missed you.
And Dean.
And Dean. Hi, and Dean.
And Dean.
And Dean.
So, without further ado, I don't like doing this show alone. Nick is my lead sometimes, But you're no strangers to us. Sarah's done this before. Kathi, you're no stranger, of course. Any stranger than the next person in Rockford.
Well, maybe some of the people in Rockford. But.
Yeah, I pause. I pause for applause. So I guess go ahead and introduce yourselves for the people that don't or are not familiar with you. Kathi, let's start with you first.
Okay. Like Dean said, I'm Kathi Kresol, and for the last 18 years, I've been hosting haunted historical tours here in Rockford. I have a couple of books I wrote, one on true crime, murder and mayhem in Rockford, and Haunted Rockford. So I collect the ghost stories, true crime, and I have an article in Rock River Times that I write every couple weeks. And yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. So
Yeah.
glad to be here, though. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, you're well. Thank you. And Sarah.
Hi, yes. I'm Sara B. I work with Kathi Kresol with Haunted Rockford. And gosh, I don't know, Kathi, how long? 200 years now?
Yeah, plus.
Something like that. We've been doing this for a long time.
In Rockford years, it's 200.
In Rockford, yeah, it feels like 200 years. Yeah, but I've had a lot of fun, and it's been amazing to get to meet some of the people that we've gotten to meet. Troy Taylor, for instance, obviously you, Dean, and your team.
Yeah.
Sam.
A lot of teams.
Yeah, lots of teams. I mean, just, it's amazing. I've had a lot of fun doing this, but I'm what Kathi calls her psychic sidekick. So, or the insensitive sensitive.
The insensitive.
Yeah. So, this has been kind of a lifelong thing for me, but, to do this on this kind of public forum where we get to go and not just investigate places, but we get to, do some stuff behind the scenes. I think that's awesome. But again, it's a lot of the people that we get to meet and hear their stories. It's always fascinating to me. Their personal accounts of what's happened or what they've been through is something that, I don't know, it's just second to none, I think.
Sure.
I've always been in for a good ghost story. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam is out there. She says, "Hey, ladies," and Dean.
Yeah, let's see
Hey,
her.
ladies and Dean. Sam is the only one that I see the name. That's weird.
Yeah, because there's a link on the thing you have to press to give Facebook permission to use your name. So it's in the comments when you see the.
No. Everybody click the link.
So we can see you, man. Unless you want to hide like Sarah B.
Oh, too soon. It's too soon.
Too soon. Yeah. Well, the Empress card, like I was trying to show before, some of the meanings behind that tarot card or tarot. Remember, we had that discussion before.
Tarot.
Tarot?
I don't know.
Tarot,
I've heard it
tarot?
both ways, tarot, and I've heard it tarot. So,
Kathi?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've heard it both ways too.
Yeah, I'm not sure which is correct, but I'll go with either. Whatever.
So the Empress means like pregnancy, fertility, good advice, which you all bring to the table.
You know what? I'm gonna have to go. So
Save.
I guess good advice I'll hang you there for, but the rest of it I do not need it. That would be a shock. That would be a conversation to have.
I'm really glad. I'm really
by the
glad you
way.
added on that good advice. I mean, we could do maybe mediocre advice, like
Well,
decent
safety, security, kind of,
yeah, those first couple.
competent women. How about that?
Mostly competent.
Building a future for family.
Sure.
You guys are laughing. All right. So, Kathi, I read in your write-up, if you were explaining yourself, you say that you're unlocking secrets since 2004. So that's high hidden actions right there. So you're an Empress.
Okay.
Unlocking
Okay.
secrets. Rockford
Awesome.
secrets.
Oh,
Sarah?
right?
Sarah, when we interviewed you last, you said that you live in a world of what ifs.
That's true.
So that's boom right there. Empresses.
Yay! I like that better than fertility and
pregnancy.
pregnancy. Yeah, I've got a tween and a toddler, so I think I'm okay. Yeah, I
Are
am
you still
losing
coaching?
my. Yeah, you know what? I don't know. the roster, I guess, should come out on August 8th. So,
Are you hoping you're on the roster?
well, I mean, I'll do it, but I'll do it. I'll do it.
Are you twisting your own arm? What are you doing?
Well, you know what? I want to win. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, if the kids, they get to play soccer, I love the sport. So we're getting ready to build the teams. So I said, if you need a coach, let me know. So we'll see. There's a lot of new 5th graders that get to play this year, and we might have enough to, it'll just be a 5th grade team maybe, and then 6th grade bumps up to varsity. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know if we'll need a 5th, 6th split. So whichever one.
I'll play if you need somebody.
I do need a goalie. I need a solid goalie.
I think I might cover the goal. No one to score off of us. All right, so we do like to start the show too with some of the things that we've done. So Nick shared with me a story that last week we had Victoria Monday on, and the show was after the priestess card. So he was the high priest, she was the high priestess, and I was Judas Priest. So he went for a job interview through StreamYard, and he still had the high priest name on. So when he joined the interview, high priest was there, and she's like, that was the thing that made the interviewer, or the person doing the interviews day, I guess. So he was laughing at that.
I bet that hadn't happened before.
Oh, right.
Did he get the job?
You've seen it all. Yeah.
I don't know if he got the job. I think he's still hearing, this was yesterday, so, or Tuesday. So Tuesday we had our lab night. The last Tuesday of the month is our meeting, Ghost Head Soup meeting. So he stepped up there. So I saw him for the first time in forever. So it was good to see him. So that's why we're doing the show this week on Thursday. But something happened to me is this heart. Mm-hmm. I found a quilted heart. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they hide these things all over the country, and it says, I need a home. I found a quilted heart. And you got to go to their website, www.ifaqh.com. You're supposed to register your heart.
Oh.
And they hide them in bushes and stuff. And
what were you doing in the bushes, Dee?
Well, that's the thing. They hide them in bushes. And
does this have anything to do with why you can't drink in Wisconsin anymore?
No.
Yeah, but he's like, no.
Yeah,
no.
I mean, he was slow to respond, wasn't he?
See, I was leaving work, and I work at Northwestern Memorial doing room service stuff, but they were doing landscaping out front. So I think they were digging around in weeds, and they found it, and they hung it into a tree. So when I was walking to my car, I seen this thing hanging in the tree. So I grabbed it and turned it in.
We have a family here that paints in Rockford. We have a family that paints rocks.
Paint rocks, yeah.
The nice little sayings on rocks. They've done a Haunted Rockford one for me and hid it, and then if somebody finds it, then they win a prize. So yeah, so that's kind of neat.
Cool.
I found one about coffee one day, and I turned around, went into the store and got coffee because I figured it was telling me I needed coffee.
So who doesn't?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the painted rocks are one. I didn't know about the quilted hearts until I found this one.
Yeah, I had never heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard of the painted rocks either. I need to get out more.
And then there's the rubber ducks too. People leave rubber ducks on your car. Did you hear that one?
No,
I've had other things left on my car that we won't get into.
Oh boy.
Wow.
In a public place is like, it's for those of you who don't know me, I work at the Rockford Public Library during the day time, and so people
Vampire by night.
Yeah.
Oh, so where should we begin with? A lot of things too. What is your view on Nostradamus, Kathy?
That's a little bit more of a meatier question to get into right off the bat. I wasn't expecting. I was expecting to tell ghost stories and stuff. I didn't know.
Welcome to the fire.
Yeah, well, I'm
bigger
gonna step out of that one a little bit and just I'll let you talk about what your views are of. I love anybody who writes, so that's cool. And foretelling the future, that's cool. But this is a subject I don't know very much about, so I will defer to you.
So fortune telling, there was somebody else out there, and Sarah, see if you know who this person is. Ursula
Bielski?
Santil.
I was wrong.
No, Ursula. She was known as an English witch.
Okay.
Mother witch or something like that. So she was like a psychic before Nostradamus was a psychic.
Oh, okay.
She was she was born like in the 1488, where Nostradamus was born in 1503.
Mm-hmm.
She was the witch that I think is based off of like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs type of thing.
Oh, wow.
What? Okay. Why is she based on? I love the legends and the lore and the beginning and the origin stories.
Just the way she looked, like the nose, and she gave like the impression. I think that's where it first started from.
So she didn't hang out with little people.
She was born in a cave during a violent thunderstorm.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Yes, and it was like along the banks of River Nid or something like that. Her mom, they were kind of like ousted from the town, and they lived in this cave. And she kind of ventured out, but nobody liked her. And then so she went back there, and she learned all these natural remedies, kind of like Nostradamus. He learned how to do medicine, and she started doing these predictions and stuff was coming true, or they thought they were coming through. Some claimed that some of it was forgery. I don't know. But when you learn something or have something to say. So she ended up marrying Tobias. And that's where she got the last name Santil or something like that. But when he died, she became Old Mother Ursula, or the witch. But that was interesting to find her. So you do know about her, Sarah?
I do, but yes, I have. I've actually recently, as a matter of fact, and I'm trying to rack my brain on what I've heard. There's a couple of interesting stories of various alleged witches out there, because recently I've been kind of digging into the that idea of evil, if you will. Like, for instance, the power of words, right? Who gets to decide the word witch? How is it applied? And who got to decide witches are evil, right? Because historically speaking, they were not necessarily called witches. They were referred to as wise women or wise men in some cases. Excuse me. They were now, we might say they were a hedge witch if they lived on the edge of town. There's many different words for these wise. Usually they were wise women, right? They tended to be the healers because they knew they had an intimate knowledge of the plant life, like you were saying. So they knew which ones were medicinal and which ones were not. They tended to be the midwives. So they spent a lot of time, bringing children into the world, healing sick folks. Sometimes they would do love spells and whatnot to encourage love, finding a loving partner, not making someone fall in love with you per se. But, I started to get into the idea of like, when did this take a turn? And there's a really great video out on YouTube for anybody who's interested in just the historical side, right? It's about, I feel like it's an hour long, and I believe it's called The Burning Times. And there's three episodes, right? If you're not interested in, witches in media, such as, Wizard of Oz, for instance. Yeah, right. Or in art and whatnot, then you don't have to worry about the second half. But if you're just interested in the history, it's fantastic. Like, this is college level discussion, if you will. Like I wish this person would have published their sources so I could go and dig further, but it's really, really in depth, and it's really, really engaging and really good. So even if you don't want to watch the video that they've put together, you can just listen to it, and it's fantastic. But I believe it's called The Burning Times. And they discuss this, and it really does come down to, because Nostradamus was in there as well, right? It really does come down to this one incident where the author of the Malleus Maleficarum, right, the Hammer of Witches, right before he writes the book, he is after this woman. He's accusing her of witchcraft, but she happens to be very well married. She's, according to the accounts, she's not very attractive to look at, so she kind of suits the haggish kind of crone, but she's very well married. And the husband takes, after this guy, and he's like, first of all, you're an outsider, so get out of town. Second of all, it's my wife, so bugger off twice, right?
Right.
And so when you get into the character, and I cannot remember this clown's name, but when you get into his background and his character of who he is or who he was, you find out he essentially just hated women. And he wrote this to, like, I don't know if it was in response to this slam against what he must have felt was his ego. But he writes this wildly sensational book. And he writes it with this idea that he had the full support of the Catholic Church, which, of course, at the time was extremely powerful, which is why Nostradamus wrote the way he did. He wrote in those quatrains that are hard to understand. Yes.
Riddled. Yep.
Because the Inquisition was going on. And
right.
While the church was like, we kind of like it. And the queen was like, I kind of like what you're saying here. But they're like, still, we'll put you to death because it's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So the author of the Malleus Maleficarum had this pretend backing of the Catholic Church. And he told everybody, because back then it was all word of mouth, right? And for the church to refute him, it was going to take forever, right? Like, he's not in Rome, he's in Germany or wherever. And so the church supported this, quote unquote, for about 3 years. And then they were like, this dude's nuts. But the damage was already done. This book was second only to the Bible. And this spread like wildfire. And the way he wrote it, in fact, there is some thought that the second author on the book was already dead before this book was penned. So he just did this for, like, more notoriety's sake. But
what time frame was that?
Oh, you're asking me all these dates. I don't know.
Because Nostradamus is like the 1500s. That's when.
Yep. This
they started putting stuff in print.
Yeah, this, I think, the Malleus Maleficarum was, I think, on the heels of Nostradamus. I think he just skimmed by. Now, please don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure where those dates line up. But the way this was written was predominantly to attack women. If women had friends, right, then they're spreading their witchy ways and whatever. So women couldn't even have friends. They couldn't congregate. They couldn't talk. And if you said, I'm not a witch, then you're definitely a witch, right? So he had all of this language put in so that essentially proving your innocence was impossible. And of course, like I said, it is really, the episode is fantastic to watch. It's wonderful. I highly recommend it. And then when you put it into perspective of how many people have lost their lives since this book was published up to today, because people still use this in especially third world countries to justify killing whomever, babies, adults, children. Oh, they're witches, right? They still use this to, right? So when you think about all of the harm this has done, it's astronomical. It's probably the most evil book I can think of, just in terms of loss of life. But yeah, so Nostradamus, he had to write the way he wrote because of the Inquisition, because the Catholic Church was not going to look the other way. But the interesting thing is the Catholic Church didn't have anything against witchcraft for like the first 1,300 years of its existence.
Well,
they were like, it's folklore, right? And I'm Catholic, and I'll tell you right now, like, some of our saints, I'm gonna be honest, hopefully my priest isn't watching. but some of our saints,
I
like
did
Saint
send
Bridget.
him a link.
Hey, I got to go. Our Saint Bridget, for instance, is absolutely the Bridget of old. That pagan goddess who, may or may not have been based in a real individual, but she wasn't a Christian individual, but they made her eventually. And you see that some of the Catholic saints and when you start to dig, you find out, oh, their origin it's not exactly what I thought it was. So for Nostradamus, I've always found him fascinating. I've watched his stuff or episodes and shows on him since I was a little kid when they would have it. I think he skyrocketed to fame after 9/11. I mean, he was famous before. He was absolutely famous in his time, but he skyrocketed to, the lexicon of everyone. He became a household name post 9/11. Did he predict 9/11? So, I mean, then you get into the predictions, right? Like, did he predict that? I don't know. I mean, the problem is that the quatrains are so vague-ish.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're like over the target.
Translated
like,
already,
Yeah. And you're talking about like, in a very old form of French to a much more modern, so is it an actual, like a real solid translation? I don't know. But I mean, then you get quatrains about Hister versus Hitler, and he's going to come out of these areas, and you're like,
yeah.
I mean,
well, there's the River Histler, which makes sense of why he's talking. And you mentioned, I wish they left the source on the video so you could dig deeper.
Yeah. Do a real deep dive.
That's what Nostradamus did. Is he took his sources and he burnt them. So he went back into time and researched the history to understand what the future may hold. So it's kind of like, okay, I see what the past did. Now I can know what the future is going to do. Let me burn what I learned so no one else has that source. So. And
to me, that's a big tragedy. And Kathi, you probably, as a book lover, that it's like the burning of Alexandria, or the Library of Alexandria, right? Like, I'm like, oh, what, or the Dead Sea Scrolls when that mother burned all those, and you're like, why? Like, burn anything but this, Anytime
that a primary source has been destroyed, I mean, how do you back up history? And
I just could rip my hair out. I could just rip my hair out, because you wonder, how much have we lost? I mean, here we are, we find ourselves in this amazing world that we're in now with all this technology and all of this knowledge at our fingertips. We've got computers in our pockets and we use them every day, and we're not learning anything. So
we're learning a lot.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I could go on forever, but that video, again, I cannot stress it enough, because I came away from that video with a lot of this realization, like, I know that I know nothing. For all of the schooling that I've had, this was really well done. This was like going to a college senior seminar. I mean, this was really well done without it being pedantic. It was really well done. And I came away going, everything I thought I knew, like, where did witches come from? And why is the word bad? And she just, or he, I'm not sure, just unraveled the whole thing. I say that, but they had kind of a neutral voice, so I'm not really sure. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but I mean, I just came away going, I don't know anything.
Talk about this for a little bit. Sarah, when you were talking, my head went to Mike Clean's book about witchcraft in Illinois.
I got it. Yeah,
I love that book, and I, with Mike's blessing, I presented it in schools. Believe it or not, they want to know about the history of witchcraft in Illinois. So I've done quite a few of those, but I actually, Mike congratulated me, because I actually found one story in Rockford that had a witch mentioned in it, because we have those two. For one thing, people don't branch out with the naming of the witches here in Rockford. We've got two Beulahs, and they're two totally different Beulahs. And I just wrote an article for Rock River Times about a witch story that Sarah and Sam and I have been investigating, probably for at least visiting for at least 4 months, 5 months, maybe, because it was really cold when we went the first time.
Yeah, it was.
It was really cold.
Is that the Rockton? Is that the Rockton?
It is the Rockton Witch Baby, but we've got a different slant on it, Dean.
I'm sure.
So I investigated the legend. I don't know where this came from, but anybody who knows resources, if you go on Find a Grave, they have the whole family history right there. And but there has been a very unusual side effect, if you will. So we went out there and talked to the mother, who was not a witch, by the way. But what's really strange is, okay, how did this legend ever begin? Is it just because this grave is actually got a little fencing around it? Now, in Find a Grave, it mentioned that the baby died. Charlie Wright is his name, in 1855. And the family had a pretty big plot there. There are several family members buried there. But the story goes that there was a witch on the edge of town, or that lived on the fringes, like all witch, you never see them in the big mansions downtown, but she lived
all
on the
proper witches.
And she got pregnant and nobody knew. She didn't have a husband. She didn't have a boyfriend. She just turned out pregnant. And there are two, again, this kind of goes into two separate ways. The stories that I've heard. One said that the baby mysteriously died, and the thought process was behind that she was cementing her deal with the devil by sacrificing her own child. Or the townspeople drove her and this demon baby of hers, which might have been deformed, because back then they thought deformities were a sign of, demonic intention. And so they drove them out of town, and both of them died. I don't know why the baby would have been buried without the mother. I don't know. But she supposedly haunts the cemetery because she wants to get to her child. And you'll see her around the edges of the cemetery. Shadows, you'll hear weeping. So we go with this legend behind us, and we're open, and we go there, and Sam used dowsing rods. Sarah used them a little bit, but she tried to connect. And we got Elizabeth, who came through, the mother. There is a mother and a father of this baby, so not an illegitimate child. They actually lived in the area beyond the death of the child. They had more children. They lived there for at least 5 years. I found them in the census records. I'm thinking, okay, this mom, and she's hanging out for 5 years with her husband. It's ridiculous when you can back up the facts. But there is actually a haunting, and it is the mother, because the anguish of these poor parents who have watched their baby's grave be desecrated. Now, when I went out there the last time, just a week ago, people have been leaving gifts for this child. Now, some are appropriate, teddy bears and shells and rocks and coins.
It's like a geocache.
Yeah, but some are not. There was a can of twisted tea in there, several skeletons, a package of meat, a package of bread, a package of cheese, very odd things. And
in this economy,
yeah, I know. I mean, is it the way they're storing their food? I'm not sure. But
did you make a sandwich? I mean, come on.
I did not. I actually cleaned it up and threw the crap away, because I, as a mother, I have 5 children, and I am blessed that all 5 of mine lived, but this baby died at 10 months old.
Yeah.
So I cleaned it up, and I took a picture, and I wrote about it for the article for Rock River Times this time. But what we find very surprising is this haunting that has been created. So ghosts, we say, where do they come from? Well, this one was created by the selfish act of these people who are going there and saying horrible things about this mother and their child. So this woman who lost her little baby is there to protect him. And when they feel the anger and when they feel scared and then when they feel sadness, it is what these people have created.
Yeah, and that type of story goes on everywhere. I mean, Kate Blood up in Appleton, Wisconsin, is the same way. They're saying that she killed her kids and all this other stuff, and she went to Lawrence, Kansas, and died young. Her husband was not murdered. He remarried. The kids were not murdered. They went on. So there's this like whole big thing about her being a witch and all this other stuff. It's the same scenario.
Blood's Point, there's supposedly a witch out there too, and that that Arthur Blood killed his own children to save their souls because they were friends with this witch lady. Arthur Blood moved to Iowa with all of his children. I found them all there in the census records. So
obviously he killed somebody else's children then.
He must have.
I mean, that's the only logical conclusion we can leap to.
Oops, these ain't my kids. God dang it.
Right? Hey, look, I don't know.
I'm saving souls.
Which ones were ours?
It was dark. Candles, I mean, facial
Speaking of the census records, the 1950 census came out.
I saw that.
And
I'm not in that one either. But
yeah, I found my mom and dad in there. That's pretty cool.
Oh, did you? That's cool. That is
Actually, I found my dad right away. My mom, I don't know what happened. They spelled her name wrong or something, or it wasn't published yet when I was looking, but Tim found it and sent me the link. So I was like, sweet.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so I got both of them. I think that's cool. I probably will never see mine. Because the next one, 20 years from now? But anyway, so back to the whole witch thing too. And the mother is that Ursula, the mother witch that I was telling about earlier.
Yeah.
Her mom would not reveal who the father was of Ursula. Agatha would not reveal who the father was.
Well, good for her.
She raised, well, who knows who could,
Didn't that cause a lot of angst though for the child? Like her life wasn't easy to begin with. I mean, she
her
grew up
first
in a
2
cave.
years were in a cave. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, come on. So, but not knowing her dad, if I remember correctly, like that played a role, I think, in her life. Probably all the way through
her looks.
But I can't remember.
So basically, Ursula, or there was a family in town, I guess, that started feeling sorry for these people, so they were able to adopt Ursula, and then Agatha, her mom, went to a nunnery, and later passing away, never to see Ursula again. And then Ursula just grew up, and I guess the way she was teased because of her witch-like appearance. So then she's like, well, I don't want to deal with this stuff. So she went back to the cave and just hung around the cave, lived by the cave, and studied, her natural remedies until a carpenter came by and said, hey, let's get married. They were married. They were married a short time before he died. They never had any kids. So she just went on being this old hag. I should say that.
Yeah.
But she made predictions too. So I'm not familiar with some of the predictions that she did. I just discovered her myself. But I thought it was interesting. Mother Shipton is what she's called.
Yes. Yes.
Mother Shipton.
Yes. Yep.
And
that's right.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize the Ursula, but the Shipton.
I know, I didn't either.
Yeah. Mother
I know
Shipton.
the story, but I was like, golly, I cannot bring up the details.
I just found it interesting that they were side by side with Nostradamus too, and just that whole storytelling. And like to Kathy's point is, when I first asked about Nostradamus, she says, I like how he writes, he's a poet, and he's a medical doctor, and he did all this stuff. I mean, so, to these old times, we're still reading about it, it's so cool.
Well, and I think it speaks to the free thinkers too, because you look at things like the Da Vinci Code, which I think, was really brought to light the big screen, right? Now, how much of that is true and how much of that is fiction, but there's always been those questions about Leonardo da Vinci. But recently I came across, the code like with Michelangelo, and that one I didn't know. Now I do know he was a contemporary of Leonardo da Vinci. Da Vinci did not like him. He thought he was an arrogant little turd, but hey, when you're good, right? Like, and Da Vinci was amazing, but Michelangelo was no. What happened? Like, did we lose all of our talent? Like, oh, here's all the talent. It was just this one section, and then all of a sudden, it's like, But
no, if you look around Rockford, you see a lot.
We do.
We are very blessed here,
but. You know,
you
Michelangelo hit a lot of.
Nobody's thinking Galileo, and he was he was looked down on by the Catholic Church because of
he was threatened with death if he didn't retract that the Earth revolved around the sun versus the sun revolved around the Earth. He was threatened with death, and it wasn't until very much later that the Catholic Church was like,
"Well, we might have got that one wrong."
So. I mean, we'll let you
the one they have to admit to anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. They're not good at admitting a whole bunch, but Michelangelo hit a lot of his. He was not a fan of a lot of the church or a lot of religious that dogma. He wasn't. He was kind of raised with the I think the Medicis and whatnot, and he kind of came from that free thinking sort of environment that was absolutely frowned on in that time. And so he hid a lot of things in his paintings. There's one, I think he's given the bird to the bishop. So that's in there. The Sistine Chapel has a famous one where you
wait a second. This goes back to how long does that go back to?
Oh gosh, a really long time. As it turns
Seriously?
out. Yeah, like really long time.
Wow.
Like ancient time. Yeah.
It was kind of like a Maloik type of thing where you Maloik, the Italians. The
yeah,
Italians did a Maloik?
Yeah. That's so they could get you in both eyes.
Maloik, do you know what that Maloik is? It's like a curse. They curse you, and then you know the Italian horn that they wear? The Italian horn?
Yep.
So that's supposed to hit the curse and then spin around
off.
And then go past, back to the person that cursed them in the first place.
My husband used to have one, but I don't know whatever happened to it.
You stole it and cursed them.
That's exactly it. Try me. But I've been to the Sistine Chapel and I've seen some of his artwork. But again, he was masterful at hiding it.
That's interesting.
And
it's so fascinating when you talk about the symbolism and the hidden things.
And he didn't hide it if you look at the judgment, so you've got Jesus, so it's on the back wall, you've got Jesus, at the judgment, you've got people going to hell and you've got people going to heaven, and on the skin of I think Bartholomew was the Pope or whatever. So the face, like, it's in there. I mean, all you got to do is zoom in. And then there's this argument that when he did the Pietà, he kind of thumbed his nose. He was commissioned to do it. And so they would do this little terracotta, mock up. And they were like, and the church was like, okay, we like everything except for this little Cupid guy here. Not a fan. Because he had the wings, he had the arrow. He was like, not a fan. But then when he did it in marble, Mary, what we think of as Mary, his mother, is holding him. But the church, I didn't know this until recently, the church threw a fit because she looked too young. Jesus was 33. She should have been in her 50s or something like that. But this is the face of a young woman. And so there was this idea that he's saying this isn't Mary, his mother. This is Mary Magdalene. And then when you flip the image around, it's a perfect human heart. It forms their bodies when you look at it from behind, including the way her dress falls and whatever. It is a perfect human heart. And he had a lot of intimate knowledge of human anatomy because they'd steal the bodies and he'd dissect them and draw them and whatever. But he knew it. And that little side thing off the thing there that had been removed, you can see it's got the sash and whatever. So he snuck the Cupid in there. But all of it was this point to, like, we think it's him and Mary Magdalene, right? And the church was like,
in Leonardo DiCaprio. No, Leonardo da Vinci.
It's a different Leonardo. Yeah.
Yeah, that Last Supper, they talk about the figure that they say is a woman in there.
They're leaning
that was
in.
Mary too. Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that they're formed together forms that covenant, that cup, right? So yeah, I mean it's interesting to me how they we think of it with all of these years removed, Nostradamus and Mother Shipton, and we've got all of these years between us and them. But in order to understand them, what they were writing, what they were doing, the greats, Leonardo and Michelangelo, to understand them, we have to understand what was going on at the time sociopolitically. We have to understand that, it's just like today, right? They were people and not everybody agrees with what's going on, wherever they are, right? So neither did they. They're like, I'm supposed to do what now?
Yeah. The only thing that's changed is the media, the technologies. The only things that's changed pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's really neat to see the fact that people believed what they believed so strongly that they were willing to face death. And I mean, and we talk
a terrible death too.
Yeah. The witches, the people on the fringe, and whether they were witches or just people that were ostracized. I mean, and even today we have that, and you think that we would have evolved.
Yeah. I mean, you think about,
but
evolution's a long process.
Yeah, well, it really is.
A long, painful process.
Exactly. But you think about like that psychic scar that gets left, right? Like there's after the Malleus Maleficarum came out, and then they started to implement the witch hunts, right? Like what a lucrative job for folks. They're like, I'm a witch hunter, and you just got to kill whoever you want, and then you were like, I dig graves, so now I have more job. So like people just invented jobs, so it was sort of capitalistic in a horrible way. But when you think of that psychic scar, because they were taught, there are entire towns like in Germany where there were no women left, and they weren't witches. 99.99%, none of them were witches. Oh, you have got a weird birthmark, like that's your fault, like, oh, definitely a witch. What? But you think about all of the people who watched this happen, little children watching their moms get dragged off and burnt at the stake or decapitated or whatever. And you think that's got to leave a psychic scar on humanity.
Sarah, like we tell the story of Marie Vesky in Greenwood Cemetery. She's our local other Beulah. And she was the one on McGregor Road out by Bishop Lane Retreat House. And I moved here. I'm not from Rockford. I came here in the 80s. And I remember my ex-husband taking me out and to there to see Witch Beulah's place, And at that time, people were saying that she's this evil witch. And there were a couple of different stories about her. But one said that she was a school teacher in a little schoolhouse out there, and it burned, and people blamed her for the death of the children, and they ostracized her, and she went insane, and she would try to lure children into the woods then. And so people would say, when you go out there, you'll see her in the woods, and she has two dogs that will follow you, and they're like her demon dogs. But when you look at the woman who actually lived out there, and I found her because I researched the story, and I found people would go out and kind of like vandalize her house and throw things in her yard. And she was elderly by this time, and kind of like an old hag at the outside of the town. And I found him because two boys got arrested for trying to break into her house, and she called the police. So if you think about that, and the real irony of this is she really was a school teacher. She had spent her entire life with children and taking care of them, and then to be terrorized by them in her elderly. She had moved out there. She had taken care of her parents, never had a family of her own, moved out there in this house. And the neighbors helped, keep an eye on her. But she was terrorized. Probably every weekend they would come out and throw things, and they stole things out of her yard. And it's just awful what, and they probably didn't even think that it had any real consequence, but
Yeah.
how horrible that would be for her.
And scary.
And
I mean,
scary.
you're out there by yourself, it's just, you think about it, like what really has changed between, the burning times and today.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're not dragging, thankfully, we're hopefully, at least most countries aren't dragging people out and burning them on a stake somewhere, but
they kind of are, Sarah.
They kind of are. It's a different kind.
With social media, you hear about people they put horrible, scorned lovers put pictures of naked whatevers, and they burn them at the stake, and they ruin their lives on social media.
And then what? Like, how do you defend yourself against that? Even if you have a successful defense and it comes out and, your lawyer's like, nah, this didn't happen, et cetera, and you win, right? That you're still guilty in the court of public opinion. And that carries an awful lot of weight, and people will mob together. Some people are just never going to change their mind. The damage is already done. And then what? You get to rebuild and be like, you have to explain that every time. That's why I honestly think that this is the most evil book that was ever published, because they still, while no one is really reading it today, I mean, collectors maybe, or you might have a copy, but it's not like it used to be, right? Where everyone was reading it. It's still in effect. We still have this idea of what a witch looks like. We still have this idea, if she's got a cat, it's her familiar. All of this came from those books, or from that book. All of this, they're going to sacrifice their children. Most of these witches these witches, right? They were not satanic in any way. Even today, the number of true satanic witches, right, or people who practice Satanism is so low. And even of that sect, so many will say, I'm a Satanist, but I don't believe, like, we're not worshiping Satan. We're just not listening to God, or whatever, right? Like, they're not sacrificing children. Now, maybe there's a very tiny sect out there that does horrible things they don't even want to think about. But on average, you think about these people who consider themselves to be modern day witches or pagans or whatnot. Honestly, they've been some of the most wonderful people I've ever met. And again, I grew up Roman Catholic, right? Like, I've met some crappy Christians, thank you very much, but I've met some amazing, people who are witches or pagans, and their first rule is harm none. Always put out with love, because you've got that 3 rule, that which you put out, you call back to yourself. And you know what? Christians, Jesus said the same thing, return, 7 times 7. How many times should I forgive? 70 times 7, that many times, and then some, right? You just, because what you put out, you call back to yourself. And then you go to these other religions, and you've got, the harm none kind of idea. Harm none is not that much different than the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself, right? So this is this really ancient concept, but because we allowed, some individual had this beef with, a woman, he writes this book that's so misogynistic, and he hated women. And look what's happened. So
right.
Even
the focus
today,
goes on that person. And the Kathy's point there is the focus is on the people that did this. And Kathy's bringing this lady's voice back to kind of a validation. And I think we all do that in a sense with the people. We dive down into the history and we find the facts, the actual facts, or what we can. We discount what the kids made up or whoever created
correcting history.
Somebody said to me, because I mean, those are the stories. I know that an article here or article there and retelling these stories may not change people's minds, but they said, why do you even bother? People are going to believe what they want to believe, and you're not saving anybody. But I have this story that I told my kids, and I tell my teammates at work and stuff, that I don't know if you've ever heard of the starfish story.
Yep.
There was a man walking along the beach, and he's picking up the starfish and he's throwing it back in the sea, and somebody sees him, and there's a whole beach full of starfish. And they said, "You're not going to make any difference." And he picked up a starfish and he says, "It made a difference to this one," and he threw it back in the ocean. So my little stories here and there may not change everybody's mind, but I hope I'm planting the seed that maybe will keep them from, I need to get some more facts before I repeat this legend, or before I go out to this old woman's house and terrorize her. That's, and I know that my stories about are going out and getting Elizabeth and Charlie and James's story, and writing about it and getting the truth from Elizabeth.
It's the point of view. It's the point of, so when you're watching a movie and you watch the criminal, you're watching through his eyes, and you're seeing all these people in a car crash or a car chase. All these people are going off the road and blowing up and everything. You don't know what these people, you don't know these other people, but your point of view is the criminal doing this, driving these people off the road. You're giving these people faces and voices. Yeah. I think we all are, in a sense, like I said.
Oh, earlier. We all are, and I that's what I love. And that's why I say that when you're doing this paranormal research or supernatural research, or whatever you want to call what we do, what is, it's not one perspective does not make the full picture. I mean, Dean, you know this, and you've got Tim, who is a wonderful researcher, and you find those facts, but we go into these haunted places and you use equipment, and you get that validated that yes, something is there. Mm-hmm. And then we've got the history behind it. And then we have people like Sarah and Sam, who are the psychics. And they can give us the perspective. Like, we wouldn't have known that Elizabeth was really there if Sam and Sarah hadn't been there to tell me that Elizabeth is here and she is upset. And, to take those three, that triangle, to get the full picture, you wouldn't want to not have one of those aspects, because it really does make the story, it brings them back. It makes them alive again, to be able to share their history and their reasonings of the hauntings. And I have always been fascinated with people alive or dead, more so than, the light turned on in the room that I'm not in anymore, or, that door slammed shut in my face. I always want to know, why would that happen? Not just, it's kind of cool when you're in a room and things happen.
But why?
Well, why? I'm not satisfied with the actual, that's more like a symptom of something, what is going on? And then the door slams and you're like, all right, so what is going on? So then, then we bring in the Deans with the cool gadgets. We bring in the Sarahs with the, the third eye thing, and we get that full picture.
Well, and because you mentioned, like, we're all in the paranormal field, right? Like, whether it's research or what, the unanswerable question really is, how much healing are we providing through doing this, or through telling their side, excuse me, their side of the story for them?
It is.
Huh? You
can get an answer on how does this help? Because I've seen you in action, and I've seen you bring peace to living souls, because they can connect with that loved one who they had fought with, the week they died, and they didn't have that closure, that sense that, did they know I love them? I've seen you do that. And I've seen Dean's face, when we're in places, and a child, like that house that you used to live in, and the little girl was so scared in the basement because that creepy maintenance man would watch her go into the bathroom in the little girl's room in the basement of that schoolhouse. And you would tell her, it's okay. The bad man isn't here. And she could talk, and you gave her a chance to express that fear. I know we make a difference on both sides.
Yeah, on both sides. I mean, like, look, what's the difference? I know, like, in church when they pray for the souls of the dead, right? Like, I don't know if every church does that, but the Catholic Church does that, and we pray for those in purgatory. We pray for the souls who have passed on, right? So really, what's the difference between, when we're doing the research or we're telling their stories, right? Like, you're talking about the mother of the witch baby, right? You're telling her story. And when people are like, well, how's it going to make a difference? Well, maybe it doesn't make a difference amongst the living. Maybe it doesn't, but maybe she's on the other side, and that made all the difference for her.
Yeah. Bring her a little peace.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and that's like
should-
each instance, whomever these spirits are, they hear, hey, wait a minute, that's my story. Because what about the ones that have been there so long or whatnot, and maybe they've forgotten? They don't remember their death. They don't remember those, their life anymore. They're just kind of lost. And now, you guys come in with your research and you're telling their story, and they're like, hey, yeah, and then they're like, hey,
Sarah, don't you
Come
think
on.
that sometimes those really scary ghosts that we've run into, they're formed by injustices? And I mean, you hear
Sure.
this. I went down to the Myrtles Mansion in down by New Orleans,
Louisiana. Yeah.
Yes, and this has happened so many times where, and just the other day when we were doing that cemetery tour at Cedar Bluff, and the person that is haunting the grave is not the person that died. I mean, they died and is buried there. It is the woman he killed. I'm talking about Leo Carlson and Celia. And you looked at me and you said, she's not buried here. She's so strong because she's caught in that injustice of what was done to her.
Yeah.
And she has turned into this very, very
Entity.
strong, negative entity.
Yeah.
And because of his hatred of her, because she was leaving him, she was gone, she was free of him, and he went to visit her that one last time, he said, and he walked up behind her and he put a gun to her head and he blew her head off. And that created, she was young, she was going to start her life over, and now she's left and she's this swirling black mist of hatred, and she can't rest in peace, and I don't even know how to begin to help her, because all you feel is her anger, and she's turned into this horrible hatred filled thing.
You just got to keep bringing positive light to the area constantly. That's like
I've been sitting there thinking about it since Friday. I'm like, I don't know how to help her because she's just like trapped
just keep
in
bringing
this
positive light, positive. Just keep adding it, and
because he wrote because of the time period that she died in, women were basically their husband's property, and he won the side of the town. All the men were like, I would have killed her too. He had that.
And I think that was the linchpin. I don't know how she would have known, but the fact that not only did this happen, but on top of it, you took from me all that I had, which was my reputation. Right.
And the injustice
that was
of
it.
I mean, and I've seen it happen. Like I was mentioning the Myrtles Plantation, the, it's whether this is legend or whether there really was a slave girl who was, she was afraid she was going to get moved out to the field. She was a house slave and had it pretty good. And she made a cake with poison in it. And
oleander.
The two girls,
oleander. I have some back here, by the way.
Oh, in the bar.
I had oleander I had oleander trees at my house in Florida. I had planted. Yeah. Every once in a while, you'll see them sold up here. They don't last. You'd have to bring them inside. But kids.
Actually, Laura had one, and she had it so big. I took it to the flea market and sold it up there. And when it blossomed, I took one of the blossoms, so I have the seeds. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Come to
make
your house for
I'm not
cake.
gonna make a
Leave.
cake. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the
Those-
leaves are
Anyway,
toxic. Yeah.
You gave
Yeah.
this cake with this poison in it, wanting to make the girls sick, and then she was going to nurse them back to health, so she wouldn't have to go out in the field. And unfortunately, they ate too much, and they died.
Yeah.
And then she was supposedly taken out into the edge of the property and hung by the other slaves because they were afraid to. That if they tried to protect her in any way, that the master of the house would punish all of them. So they hung her there. And like I said, it might be another legend, but because I think Troy Taylor even did a lot of research and has never been able to actually put a name. But again, how many times can we find records of slaves?
Yeah.
It's just an impossibility. But again, that hatred, her being afraid. Could you imagine? Because she was young. I mean, she was really young, and so
That's Laura. I didn't know you kept the seed, Dean, just in case.
Just in case.
just don't take any food from me.
Yeah, I don't know that the flowers are toxic. The leaves are toxic. I do know that.
So
the cats will die.
Created where these ghosts come, when they become these horrible things that we never would want them. Nobody would ever want.
And there's no rhyme or reason to it either, right? Because you see houses that had mass murder and they didn't become, it may not even be haunted. You've got serial killers who, didn't become this swirling negative. And then there are other times that they do.
They did, yeah. So I think it's like you were saying, people have tolerances, and so sometimes what's injustice to me might not be to you, and you want everybody to have a happy death and to float away into wherever we're supposed to end up. But unfortunately,
happy Death Day to everyone.
Happy Death Day. That's kind of every day, right? Like every day you wake up alive, you're just like, I made it.
Not today.
Not today. I did it.
So let's talk about the evil side of Rockford.
Ooh.
You have a Faust Hotel. Come on. Isn't he the guy that sold his soul to the devil? And
to Mephistopheles. Yep. I've actually read that.
What's going on at the Faust Hotel? Is there any haunted?
Sure, there are hauntings there. I will be honest, it's really hard to get in there to do any like in-length investigation. But there are definitely, it is now apartments,
aren't they?
Yeah, low, people who need a little help with medical things. And so, but it's been a lot of things in its day, and it housed the shrine at one time. The shrine temple was in there, but
and that was short. That was short, right before they sold that, and then it went back to a hotel.
Yeah. And during the polio epidemic that we had here, it was the only place because they housed the polio victims out at the Winnebago County Poor Farm. The parents, most of them were children, the parents would go there to get information about their children because they were all quarantined. So, I mean, it's seen a lot of different hats and definitely anytime there's the emotion like that going on and deaths and stuff. So it was definitely.
Does it look nice? Does it look evil? I mean, what does the place look like?
No, it looks like any other building. I mean, there's a lot more sinister looking buildings here in town than that.
I think it's kind of run down.
A little bit, a little bit.
I've seen I've seen historical photos, and it looked pretty nice.
Back in the day, it was one of the places to be. But that whole downtown area around there. I mean, when we say it all the time about the things that conduct paranormal energy, and that's the whole downtown Rockford is like that. And there's been a lot of violence in that.
Is the Chick Hotel still standing?
It is. It's not the Chick Hotel anymore, but it is still there, and it that is definitely. There's nobody living inside of it. It's completely abandoned. I was kind of hoping, that somebody would do something with it. But it again was one of the premier places to stay. And right outside of its doors, one of our first police officers was shot down on the line of duty.
wow.
Right there. His name was Jack Gilligley and Galogili. I don't know. Anyway, Jack.
Cop Jack.
He had eaten dinner there. They were known for their fried chicken, and
Wow.
he was staying at a chick cottage. So he was making his way down the street, and a man named Jackson was leading his estranged wife to the train because he told her to meet him up in Beloit, and she didn't show. So he came looking for her, and he was walking her and had a gun to her.
Oh,
and
wow.
She stepped up in front of Jack, hoping to get help because she knew he was going to kill her. And the guy turned the gun on Jack and shot him. And he didn't even know what happened before he fell. He was dead before he hit the ground. And then Jackson put the gun to his own head and killed himself right there. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Right in front of the Chick Hotel?
Right in front of the Chick Hotel, yeah.
Is that the one opposite from?
It's by Stewart Square. Blue Line Cafe sits right there.
Yeah. Yep. There's a big mural on the back of it now. It's really pretty.
Yeah.
It's really pretty.
So what about underneath Rockford? Is there any hidden underground tunnels? Any
Yeah, there's a lot of tunnels by the East State area, the Swedish American. There was a tunnel under Cafe Greco that ran back to the railroad.
they're not there anymore? I mean,
the Cafe Greco, is not there. The tunnel might still be there, but the reason that it was there was during Prohibition. They would run up the railroad track and then put it in there. There was a speakeasy back in the day. So a lot of that kind of stuff. There's, we've got cemeteries. Every once in a while, I'll be able to find articles about bodies that they're doing some road work and they dig down and find an old body. There must have been, people were just burying people everywhere here, sort of like your husbands or your wives tease you like, oh, just bury me in the backyard. Well, I think it was a thing here in Rockford.
well, what about the Indian mounds and stuff? I mean, are you finding these graves too along the way? I mean,
yeah, well,
I know,
unfortunately, Sarah can attest to this. She had quite the reaction. There's a park, Haskell Park here in town that we put on the tour. And so I investigate, go through papers, and come up with stories. And then when we do our walking tours, the first one, the first time we do it, Sarah doesn't know where we're going or any of the stories or anything. I pick everything. We do not talk about it. I lead her blindly into these places, not knowing if she's going to pick up the story that I've researched, but I know she'll get usually something. So we go into this park, and I've got this story that I found of a man named James French, who was basically waiting there because his estranged wife had gone to her friend's
A lot of
house.
that.
what's
There's
going on in
sort of a theme.
Rockford?
Yeah, there's sort of a theme here.
There's a theme here. So he was waiting there because she had to pass by that park, and when she did, she was with a friend. She was scared, and she had been hiding from him for days. And her friend said, "Oh, don't worry, you're with me. He won't do anything." Well, he did. He walked right up to her and pulled out his gun and he shot her, but it bounced off the whalebone in her corset, so it didn't penetrate. And she took off running down the street. And he followed her and he shot her. He shot at her. She jumps into somebody's house that she doesn't even know. And he finishes her off there, shoots her 9 times.
Oh my
9
gosh.
times. And then he takes off running and he makes it down to the river. And by then, hundreds of people are chasing him. And he is put to death. He's actually hung, one of our public executions. So all this takes place in this park. And I'm thinking, ooh, Sarah's going to get some stuff on this, right? No,
Yeah.
Sarah does not. I didn't know. She kind of walked away from me. And then I tell the story. She doesn't want to hear it. So she's over here in the corner of the park. And then I kind of wave and she comes back and she is in tears. And I'm like, oh, she's really picking up the story. Oh no, Sarah didn't get that at all. I don't think you got that for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't think to this day, I don't think you know exactly what the whole, I mean, probably a little bit because I just told it, but I think that's, we've not talked about it much. But Sarah, why don't you tell him what you experienced?
Yeah, so we got to the park and everybody got off the bus and I walked away from the group. And as soon as I got into the park, I'm like, oh no, I don't know what she's going to want me to talk about, but I have a feeling it's not going to be this. There were Native Americans. The first one that came to mind, he was the first one that I saw. He was a tall, younger gentleman.
I think the word you used was extremely hot.
Yeah, he was. He was.
She's like, I don't know who he is.
He was nice. I was like, okay, mister, I'm not wearing a shirt. Okay. So, but he was kind of
put
like
on
wavy.
the romance book.
I know that, right? Because it was very bizarre. I was like, what? He kind of like stepped out from behind the tree. It's like, Lord have mercy.
Is that why you're crying? Because he really didn't. He couldn't.
Yeah, I was like,
why isn't he physical?
I got the vapors. But he kind of waved me over, so I came over. And I'm kind of looking around, and there were many more people there. I remember there was mom. She's kind of standing there looking for her child, like she's lost. Then there was like three women who, like older women who were together, and then there were people just kind of standing. With definitely witches. I mean, Abby. They were old. They were three women. I mean, we've all heard of Shakespeare and Macbeth, right?
Yeah. We're just showing the cauldron now.
Yeah, they're pushing around the eyeball, I thought that was weird. But he's standing there and he said, this was ours. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he kind of gave me this impression that this was like their burial ground. This wasn't like the Beatty Park where it's the effigy mounds. This was where they were buried. And he kind of made this sweeping gesture with his hand. And he said, we were here first. And then they came. So there was a divide even there at the park. So there was whatever tribe he was with. And then the people closer towards the river, they weren't physically closer to the river. They were just, at that end of the park. Mm-hmm. And then they came, is what he said. He didn't talk a lot. And I didn't know, he goes, you need to bring the tribes. I remember him saying that. I was like, I don't understand that request. So, but the feeling of lost, that is really, I think, what overwhelmed me. I'm not much of a crier. But the feeling of these people who were they were lost. They didn't know what to do. It's like, somebody just bulldozed over their graves. And that's essentially what happened. That's what he was showing me, is that they had been buried there. And then somebody had just kind of pushed all of their bones essentially into the river. And that's what he had showed. And so that's what I came back with Kathi with. I was like, I don't know what you want me to say. And everybody, I remember people were like, oh my gosh, we love that. You were crying. I was like, that's weird. I mean, it's weird that you loved it.
I think that you had made that connection. That property was owned by George Haskell and his brother-in-law, and they were known for that. They cleared land, and when they came across these, because there were 500 burial mounds that lined the Rock River in Winnebago County, and when the farmers came in or people to develop the land, they would just push them into the river. In Charles Church's book, The History of Winnebago County, he wrote of one that they found there, not too far from Beatty Park, up by where Burpee Museum and the Barnes Mansion is at. It said that it was a skeleton of a little child, and you could tell that he was well loved from what was in the burial mound with him. And what they would do, some of them who were responsible human beings would get a hold of Chicago, and Chicago would send their scientists up to like dig it out, and they took the little boy's body away. But they said, that 2,000 years that this baby's body had lain there, and now they took it. They took it out of where it's the family wanted it. 2,000 years. Yeah. And
it's
this
insane.
child had lain there. And we weren't very respectful to our indigenous people when we found their remains. I remember as a little child going, and they would open up those burial mounds and put like plastic over it, and you could look right down in them. And when you think about it, it was incredibly interesting to me because it was a different culture, a different introduction to a life I knew nothing about. But if I think about my grandmother, somebody doing that to them, we didn't like it very much. And we have we had no respect until the 70s when they did that class action thing where none of that is happening anymore. You can show pictures of what it was like, but you can't just have people's remains like hanging out there. Wow. So, yeah.
With the I guess the cheaper way of when people die, they cremate them now. So is there a difference in your mind, Sarah, for somebody who has been cremated? Are those souls able to communicate with you? I know people in fires, they can communicate with you. I'm just curious about that. I
never thought about that.
Yeah.
So both my dad and my grandmother were cremated. Now I don't hear from my dad. I think he's working through some stuff on his side. Yep, I do. I think he's working through some stuff. But my grandmother, now I don't necessarily hear from her, but my grandmother was my person. She was the one, in a plethora of adults that were, in my life growing up. Not in the, but you had teachers and whatever. She was about the one person I felt I could trust. And she was my person. That being said, I had a very long relationship with my grandmother. She only passed away a couple of years ago, and she was well into her 90s. So she was cremated. And every once in a while, like when I'm having a hard time and I'm like, oh, Graham, I wish you were here, because I could always, I could just talk to you. And I'd say, oh, Graham, I wish you were here. And I'll feel her. And in that feeling, I'm like, okay, I'm better, right? But I don't hear her verbally. I think she's like just really on the other side. She just kind of pops in when I need her, and I can feel her every once in a while. I think she pops in to just check things out. Paul heard her after she died. She's never been to this house that we live in
Paul
now.
Smith?
No, my Paul. My husband.
Your Paul.
Yeah, okay. My Paul. Yeah, no. She had never been to this house before she died. It didn't happen. And after she passed, my Paul was here in the house, and he heard her upstairs. He heard her call out either hello or his name. I don't remember. But I think, but he heard her. He knew it was her. It was her voice. And, so he heard her. I was like, I don't know where I was, but I was like, Graham, so I don't know that it matters.
I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either.
It's true.
Oh,
so
okay.
Was cremated. Now that I didn't know. I didn't know he was.
I didn't know that either.
So that's
everything
interesting.
But his foot.
Yeah. Yeah, his foot's still out there, Sam. So that's why.
Maybe that's why. Yeah. Yes, I don't know. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter if they're cremated or not. I think it matters, if they want to show up. But
my mom was cremated, and she came through really.
Yeah, she came through. Yeah.
There you go.
That's an interesting question. And honestly, I never really thought about it. So.
Yeah, my mom's only come. I mean, she's come through in different ways, but she came through to Sarah one night. We were getting on the bus, getting ready to go out and do one of our, there's a bus of 56 people in front of me, and I'm just getting started. And Sarah's like, your mom. And I said, yeah. And she said, was her name Mary Elizabeth by any chance? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, she has a message. And I'm like, okay, can you tell her I'll get back to her later? Because, and she goes, oh, she just wants to let you know that she does not like the color of the shirt you're wearing right now. You should never wear that again.
You should never.
But I thought it was a lovely color. I was like, oh no, I really like it. And I don't think you've ever worn it again.
No, I have not.
Like,
but that was so my mom. That was so my mom. So, there was, besides,
I remember wrestling with her about that.
Because Sarah
with her about that because I'm like, I'm not going to say, that's kind of messed up. I'm not going to say that. She goes, no, she'll understand. I was like, no, I don't. She's like, just say it. She'll know it's true. I was like,
yeah, so and that's true. Okay. I knew it really was my mom.
It's not a message of, it was like, it's not a message of love and light. Like, it's a message of.
There's been other occasions that you had, you're like, I won't say where and I won't say who, but she's the person we were checking out their place, and they're all like, do they like what we've done with the place? Sarah's like, well, yeah. And she's looking at me like, help me, So I said, oh, I'm sure they, they like this old fashioned lamp you have here or whatever. And I lead him out of the room. And then later Sarah says, they hate him. They what he said. They don't like him.
Really? I'm not a fan. Yeah. Oh, do they like what I've done? I mean, they like that it's standing. Good job with that. I know. I was like, why do you guys do this to me? Why do you do this? Yeah. Because they're just jawing at you, like, say it. I'm like, you're going to say it. I'm like, I'm not going to say it. Like, that's so messed up, He's going to be mad at me. He's not going to be mad at you. He's going to be mad at me. And then I will never get to come back.
We have this preacher at Greenwood that does not like me because I speak to the
weirdly
dead.
It's you specifically.
He talks to you. She can't make him understand how ironic it is that he communicates through Sarah to tell me he doesn't like me because I communicate with the dead. I'm like, dude.
I know. I'm like, what?
I'm laughing.
Like, who was he talking to the living?
I don't know, because you know what? When I walk the dog through there, he doesn't come at me. It's just when Kathy's there, and I'm like, I got nothing. Like, so we're just not going to discuss the irony of the situation, right? We're just gonna let it go. We're just,
since he's opening up to you, Sarah, you should ask him your question. The question. What's it like over there?
She's been asking
that. Yeah. I have yet to get an answer. If anybody gets an answer, let me know, because
we did get some. We did get some at Rockton with that.
We got some very interesting.
Out of my head, the name is just escaped me.
You just. I thought you said my
witch baby,
and I was like, AIDS.
So the name escapes me.
Oh, the name
of the gentleman that he died at Gettysburg, and Sarah asked him.
Oh, the soldier that's at the Rockton Cemetery.
Yeah.
Farnsworth.
Yeah.
I remembered.
We were asking some really interesting questions. Like,
and he actually answered. She said, "Is there really a heaven, and is there really a hell?"
Oh, wow, interesting.
Yeah, we had to ask. We were like, I mean, now that we've asked about heaven, I feel like,
next logical.
We need to ask. But we didn't ask what's it like over there, but we had the dowsing rods, and I don't think.
But you asked some specific things, and he didn't answer. It's
and
like
he
they're
didn't
not
answer. It's like,
to tell us.
And it's weird. I was talking to Samantha from Tinker Swiss here the other night, and she, she said, it's almost like she was, after all of this time, all of these spirits, like through history, right? Since the dawn of when spirits started spiriting, like no one seems to break this code.
Yeah. My dad just said, when my dad was passing away, it was one of the most phenomenal experiences. He said his mom would come and take him when he went to sleep.
Yeah.
And take him over there. He all he would say it's so beautiful. And then when he woke up, he'd look around like, oh, I'm back. like
Yeah.
he was ready to go.
And there's a lot of reports like that in books on near-death experiences and people who are dying, the family reports that very same or very similar story.
Mhm.
But, and then for near death, they're like, they can't put it into words. Like we don't have the words that, to make it make sense, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Like there's nothing like when you say, oh, describe love. Well, how, right? It's just, this beauty, like we can't comprehend. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like there was a disappointment he was coming back, so it almost sounds like hell is on earth.
Sometimes.
It could be. Well, you know what? We asked about reincarnation too.
Yeah.
And whether or not
we got to choose.
Yes, you get to choose. Now that's what I've always thought is you got to choose. You got to decide, I'm going to sit over here for a while, thanks. Or if you want to just jump right back in, you can do that. You can be a guide for someone. Like there's different jobs that you can do, but
it
there's
really
also,
depends on where the better pizza is, I'm thinking.
Like, it's got to be Chicago style. So don't give me, I don't need to fold it. And then, where are we going? I said to my husband, I was like, I'll tell you what, if horses are not in heaven, I don't know that I can go.
I think that's a hard no for me, right?
Yeah.
If they're unicorns.
Ooh.
Well, that's a horse, so
yeah.
There's an Arabian proverb that says that heaven is found in the wind between a horse's ears. So that's how you know heaven is real.
There you go.
I don't know. That's how I know it's real.
Kind of wrap this up here. We're at the 9 o'clock hour. So, Kathi, you got some events coming up. August 2nd, 6:30 to 7:30. Scary Encounters with the Dead.
Yeah, it's going to be like, some of the ghost stories, some of the legends that I've researched, and it's free, and it's at the Winnebago Library.
Is that online or public?
It's public. They're opening up for, they're doing that. So
nice.
I'm excited about that. And then we have our really, really big deal coming up.
August 20th.
August 20th.
Yeah, so we're doing the Illinois Paranormal Conference at Veterans Memorial Hall. We've got speakers from all aspects of the paranormal.
Dale Kasmerick, Sylvia Schultz, Chad Lewis is going to be back there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm really
I feel like
excited.
It's been a long time since we saw Chad, right?
Has it been a long time since we saw anybody? I mean, Sylvia and Dale.
I remember telling Kathi, you got to get Chad Lewis. You got to get Chad Lewis.
You are the reason that I got Chad Lewis. The funny thing is I've been traveling with his books.
Yeah.
I started with Troy Taylor's books when I traveled. And then I went to Ursula Bielski for the Chicago area. And then everywhere else is Chad. So I've been, and I never thought of asking him. I didn't think he'd come. And he did. And he's great. And, I'm a big fan.
Rosemary Ellen Guiley came too. I was like, why don't you write to her and see if she'll come? She does talks all the time.
And
who knew? The same guy, the guy from Gettysburg, Mark.
Mark Nesbitt.
That was like, oh my gosh, he's coming too.
You know what's crazy?
So fortunate. It is. You think about Rockford. I mean, we don't have a huge paranormal base, but we've been able to get some heavy hitters here.
I remember his books.
Thanks to you.
Yeah,
wow.
For sure. I remember Mark's books down in Fort Macon in North Carolina, Beaufort, North Carolina. No, yeah, right around Beaufort, North Carolina. There's Fort Macon.
Oh, there's that cemetery again. That cemetery again. Yeah.
Yeah. It's old cemetery. So worth going. Yeah. Took my husband there on kind of one of our first dates. I was like, hey, you want to walk around the cemetery? He's like, look, if you want all of this, you're going to have to.
There you
go.
When
they're like, how weird do you get? And I'm like, you have no idea how weird.
I'm really excited about this year because, bringing everybody back together for the conference and it's going to be so much fun. And then we have an after conference event at Tinker, hopefully with Ghost Head Soup. We should ask those guys. Did you ask them if they wanted?
I think it was asked. I don't know. I think it was asked.
7 or 8 times, maybe 10 times.
They're unreliable, that ghost head
Well,
soup
they
crew.
just, they're like, yeah, we'll get back. They're so busy.
Well, you know we're gonna be there. We'll
we know one guy doesn't do well on stairs, so.
By the way, thank you for the care package, Kathy. I thanked Sarah before, but thank you. That was awesome.
You're welcome. It was Sam's and Sarah's idea, but I was happy to pitch in because
Did you eat those sugar skulls?
Not yet, no. But it was a welcome surprise.
I really want you to eat one and report back.
Yeah.
Eat that skull.
Right? The little sugar skulls. I've been waiting. I want one so bad, but I'm like, I don't want.
Maybe I'll do it on stage at the August 20th. I'll go up there and eat a skull and leave.
Right. Yeah, right. Because I'm like, what if you're not supposed to? Like, is it really food?
Yeah. No. I don't know. So that runs from 10 to 10.
Just keep a look at the Haunted Rockford website, and if you want to be the first, you should sign up for the newsletter, because my brother Tom, who I never give credit to, Tom Saunders, he does my website and my newsletter. So
there you go.
He does all the hard work. We just get to go play.
So again, August 20th from 10 to 5 at the Veterans Memorial Hall for the Illinois Paranormal Conference 2022. And then an hour later, starting at 6 to 10, they'll do the post-conference event, like Kathy said, at the Tinkersville Scottish Museum and Garden with Sarah, Kathy, and Sam. I'm assuming everyone's going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Sam's place, so like we can't get in. We can't get in without Samantha. So like, I mean, we can stand outside.
We wouldn't want to.
Yeah. We can do it old school, right, Kathy? Like where we were outside.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a contest to see who finds Robert's foot.
Oh yeah.
So that.
But
if you find Robert's foot, you win a prize.
We need a cadaver dog.
We will be giving away gift certificates and prizes out throughout the conference for upcoming events. So we'll Haunted Rockford gift certificates, and anything I can beg, borrow, and steal from the vendors, we'll be giving them away. So
speaking of Samantha and Sarah, you have your Naturally Intuitive podcast that runs.
You know what? We have yet to record this month. I think I was on vacation, and so we'll start up again in August. We haven't told Kathy, but we haven't recorded really this month because we've been trying to work on the logistics of the 3-person podcast where we talk about ghosts and ghost stories, and then we pick them apart. Is it real? Cool. Is it not real? Is it, just true crime kind of? We got some names floating out there.
So this was kind of like a template of what you kind of might be doing. Then.
Yeah, kind of. Yep.
Cool.
Yep. So nice. The whole goal is really to, we're like, let's see how this goes. Let's get Kathy in. Let's tell some ghost stories, and then kind of go, okay, was this legend or is this real? And have a good time with it. Just some of these stories are just, hilarious. Like they're just funny. And sometimes they're scary. Like Mothman's kind of scary, but also sort of hilarious. So.
I just watched that movie again. That movie, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, like, is it not kind of hilarious? Like Mothman,
Mothman.
Have you ever watched The Changeling, Dean?
Yeah. That's my favorite.
Is that like are you talking like the old one or the
George C. Scott one?
George C. Scott.
All I can think of is the one with Angelina Jolie. It wasn't it?
No.
It's the George C. Scott. It's once you get past the cheesy 70s stuff with the station wagons and the high socks and stuff like that, once you get past that, it's a
gotta pull the socks down.
Creepy stuff. Stuff.
I think the worst experience would be like if I walked into a house and that thing started banging, like the kid in the bathtub.
Sound in the bathtub.
Dude, I'm out. I think that would be the one thing I'd be like, nah, I gotta go.
Or
seriously.
I've had experience like he threw the ball in the river. I didn't have that, and then it came bouncing down the stairs.
Yeah.
No.
I had the ball come bouncing down the stairs at me. I hadn't thrown it in the river previously, but oh my god.
Maybe you needed to throw it in the river after it bounced down the stairs. Pick that thing up and launch it. We're out of here.
Speaking of river, do they do scuba diving in the river to find those old Indian bones? Maybe have
They
they
do.
explored that?
They do dive. I don't know that they're looking for those bones, but yeah, I've seen them out there in the river diving. But I think it's for a different circumstance. I don't think
Maybe more
they're
contemporary things.
Yes, I don't think it's so much for historical
But sometimes
research. Yeah. Yeah, I have seen them in the river diving, and I'm like,
can't
that
be
can't be
good.
good. Yeah, nothing good could cause this. So I don't know. Maybe they're training, and they're just like, here, dive in this murky water, and good luck to you.
Of course, check out Kathy's website. She has Haunted Rockford and her own website. You could get her books, Murder and Mayhem, in Rockford, Illinois. And then Haunted Rockford, of course. And there's a few other ones out there that you can grab and collect. Sarah, I don't know if you have any books out there, but
Not yet.
I know. I wanted to ask you, since the last time we were here. I want to see if you had any new crow sightings.
Did I? So you knew about the one crow feather, right?
Mm-hmm.
But did I tell you I found a second one?
No.
Yeah. So
I'm telling you, I knew how to.
I did get that book, by the way. I got the book, by the way.
The Earth Signs? Which one?
Yes, I did. Yep, I got the Earth Signs. I did.
This
I found yes. Yeah. Yep. I got it. As a matter of fact.
Oh, he's done.
I'm disappearing.
Here we go. Hang on. There we go. So here's feather number 1.
Nice.
And I found feather number 2. So I know, right? Isn't it crazy? I didn't really touch my face with it, but
they're gifts. I told you they're gifts.
Well, that's the thing, right? So when we went to the witch baby's grave,
I was going to say there were crows there.
Yes, and that was February or something. So we were over in that area, and I looked across, and in the little pile of white snow was a crow feather. And it's unusual because I didn't know this, but I guess crows are pretty fastidious with their feathers. They pick them up. That's why you don't find them everywhere, like goose feathers or pigeon feathers and whatnot. They pick them up, and I guess they return them to the nest. And so here are the other couple. Gosh, this was several weeks ago. This was back in June, probably early June. Paul and I were taking the baby for a stroll, and we're going down through the neighborhood, and we walk this path all the time. And lo and behold, here on the ground is a crow feather. And I was like, are we serious right now? And I picked it up, and you know what? So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think it was maybe right before we went on vacation, all of a sudden there were crows at the house. Like I could hear them cawing, and there was one in the tree. So I played back a recording of crow sounds because I'm a nerd and I've got the Audubon bird sounds. That way I can also help identify these birds. I am such a nerd. So I was playing the crow caw back to it, and it was going back and forth, and it was just him up in the tree. And then finally he got tired of my shenanigans and left. But then after that, it's like he brought his family, and they were kind of in the early morning, they would caw all around like the trees at my house. It was just weird, but yeah. So
they probably thought a missing crow was, like they were looking for the young one.
I know, help. Right?
I need a rescue party.
There's somebody on the ground over there, but all I see is this crazy lady with a phone, like, but yeah. So I don't know if you know this story, Kathy, with the 2 crows. So real quick, I don't know if this was like, I don't know the timeline on how swiftly this happened. So I don't know if there was it was the same summer or if there was 2 different summers. I don't remember anymore, but I was a teenager. We had this old pear tree in the backyard, and I was outside, and at the base of the pear tree was a crow. This was, it was a fully flighted bird. It wasn't like a fledgling, I can't tell you the number of fledgling goldfinches and stuff I've picked up and stuffed back into bushes or whatever. But this was a fully flighted crow on the ground, and the other crows were in the tree, and they're like cawing. And so I walked over and I picked him up, and I'm assuming it's a him. And I I was so excited. Like, he didn't peck me. He didn't anything. I just picked him up, kind of stuffed him under my arm, and into the house we walked because I was that child. I brought everything home, cats, frogs, fish that I had caught from the creek. I brought those home in a bucket. And then I brought this crow in, and my mom's like, no, we have to take him to the vet or whatever. And I was like, no, it's just like the coolest animal. And she's like, absolutely not. And it would have been, because his name would have been Edgar. Hello. So we took him to the vet, and they took him, I'm sure they just walked him through one door and out the other and let him go, right? Well, I went down to, I used to live over by Delquist and Twin Sisters. So I could walk to Twin Sisters Park. This is back, in the late 80s, early 90s, where no one cared about their children. And we just went all day. So I took off to the park by myself because, nothing scary ever happened back then. And I went down to the park, and as I'm walking, because there's the 3 hills, and then there's this old willow tree that I always used to sit under. And on my way, I looked over towards the creek, and here's this crow on the ground. I was like, are you serious? So I walked over, and the bird didn't fly away. It didn't like flap or anything. I walked over, and I swear to you, I picked that damn thing up like a football. It didn't peck me. It didn't like attack, nothing. And I must have lived I think it was like a 7-block walk. So I picked him up. We walked home, and I'm petting him and just, hey, bud. And walked home, and I was like, Mom, look. And she's like, not again. And I was like, seriously, like, it's a sign I should have him. He wants to be with me. I don't know if it's the same bird. I don't know. I have no idea why it wasn't injured. Like, a wing wasn't hanging there, or a leg was like, he was fine. As far as I knew, as far as I could tell. I mean, I carefully scooped him up so that his wings were stuck to his body so he didn't flap and hurt himself, but he didn't try to escape either. So I just picked him up, and I walked him home. And we took him to the same vet, and they were probably like, what the hell is going on here? Right. Because it's new. And I'm the same, like, hey, and here they took him away, and probably just walked him out the back door and like, for the love, will you just go? And that is the last one I've ever picked up. But so this 2 crows, and then all of a sudden I find crow feathers. I'm like, okay, interesting. Yeah. So
I called Sarah, the crows call Sarah their spirit human.
Yeah.
Could be. It's interesting. So many years later, I got into medicine cards. There's a book by Jamie Sams, Sams, and there's another author, and I can't remember. But the crow, the legend of the crow is Crow stares at her reflection so long that she falls in to her reflection, and Crow becomes Dead Crow, and then she becomes the crossover, the medium between the living and the dead. And so she can use that kind of magic, which is reflected in her iridescent feathers, So she goes from living crow to dead crow, and she walks that line between the veil. So I was like, oh, that's
I'm happy
weird.
You found a second feather.
Yeah, it felt like I needed a second one.
Yeah. Well,
you can't just have one.
You're good. It's not over yet.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I don't is. I don't know what they want with me.
That's my feeling anyway.
Yeah.
So again, thanks everyone for joining. Kathi, thank you for coming on tonight. Sarah, always. And I'm sure there'll be plenty more of these going forward. I'm going to end the broadcast if you want to stay on for just a quick moment. And
thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, hey. Wow. Oh, hey, everyone. It's Dean from Paranormal Pickers. Oh, I got the preview for the next episode. Oh, yeah. Here, take a peek. Oh.